Hello, ladies and gentlemen, financial advisors. Thank you for joining me once again. I am Bill Winterberg of FPPad.com, broadcasting to you live from Atlanta, Georgia. And with me today is Matt Abar, CEO of FinFolio. Matt, thank you for joining me today.
Uh, Thank you, Bill, for inviting me.
All right, Matt. So for those advisors that may not be familiar with you or FinFolio, give us a short background of you and also tell us about FinFolio and what service you provide to financial advisors.
Okay. Well, first of all, pertinent to this conversation is I've been a Microsoft Windows developer for my entire career, 20 odd years. And I've had a couple companies that were in the financial services space. The one that everyone's probably heard of is TechFi. And we made portfolio management software. And what a lot of people don't remember is we were actually one of the first web service bureaus. We predated the Black Diamonds and Orions with something called AdvisorMart. And TechFi was sold to Advent Software 10 years ago. I have a current company called FinFolio. We are also making portfolio management software, and it's Windows Desktop is kind of our main product, and it's not a service bureau. It's actually designed for a larger financial advisor who wants to run it himself. And then we also have web overlays. We're working on a Windows 8 app and a few other cool things like that.
Yeah, so now that you mentioned Windows 8, let's just jump right into the main topic of why you and I are connected today. So I know that you were at the Schwab Impact Conference in November earlier this year, and one of the things you were showing on the exhibit hall floor was the Windows 8 app that you had created for FinFolio, which allows advisors to generate reports and view report information from their portfolio management system right through a native Windows 8 app. So tell me about the reason why you decided. You talked about your experience with Windows, but with so much success on some of the other mobile platforms like Android and iOS for Apple, what compelled you to leap ahead with Windows 8 and put some faith into it?
Well, it's a good question. Well, first of all, by us doing Windows 8 app now does not necessarily mean we're not going to do an Android or iOS app. We just thought that we had hit a point in our development cycle. We were ready to start looking at mobile and other ways that we could push our reports out. And Windows 8 really jumped up to the top of the list in terms of what we could do with it. Every advisor out there, maybe talking to you, I should probably say most advisors out there are running, desktops, and they have, a more traditional office setup. And Windows 8 is just the next version of Windows. And, as the months and the years creep by, you're going to see Windows 8 gain adoption just like Windows 7 has. If you go out to a Costco or, a Best Buy and look at all the computers, they're all running Windows 8 now. And they're selling 20 million copies a month, and it's just going to be here before you know it. But very specifically, we were very excited by some of the new form factors with Windows 8. I mean, there's these kiosk machines, which is what we brought to the conference, where I'm actually talking on one right now. It's this huge 27, 30-inch desktop, all touch, and the app runs on it extremely quick, and it's very fast. We have moving video in the background and transparent charts in the front, and it's a presentation for an advisor like you've never seen before. And the concept is not that these advisors are walking around with tablets. We really wanted this to be a presentation vehicle for the advisors to push the reports out, and for their clients to be able to have a really nice experience looking at their financial data in ways they hadn't before.
Okay. Now, to play devil's advocate, I've got the iPad here. I can use that to pull up a performance reporting system. I suspect that Black Diamond, Orion, and company are going to have some presentation apps that are native to the iOS and maybe Android environment. And I can mirror that screen out to a larger conference screen. So I'm able to get the touch sensitivity out of the tablet in my hand, but the larger image and things that I can zoom in and zoom out on are projected on a larger screen. I think advisors might balk a little bit about the kiosk. It's $1,000 or something like that for a 27-inch touch-sensitive deal, and it only lives in your conference room. But when I have a tablet, and maybe this is a segue into the Surface tablet that you can talk about. When I have an iPad, when I have a Nexus tablet, I can mirror that to a larger display and not lose that touch reactivity that you talked about. So you talked about form factors and Surface and not losing that. So again, where do advisors need to go? I mean, do they want to just go into Windows 8 because it's easy and it's like what they used before? Or is it too much disruption to think about switching to Mac and going into iOS for a lot of the advisor-based functions?
Well, that's a good point, and certainly, you can achieve a similar effect with just about anything because there are, software packages for all the different operating systems out there that'll project up to a conference screen, and that's certainly something that we're excited about now. But as far as in terms other than projecting somewhere, you're pretty much limited to phones and tablets right now with the Android and iOS operating systems, and we really just are stoked about all the different types of form factors coming out for Windows 8. But certainly there's an argument to be made that as long as you can get it up to your conference room screen, that's good enough. I mean, what we have is also suitable for in a smaller advisor's office if you don't want to take up the big conference room, which can be very intimidating and a little unwieldy. But the really neat thing about Windows 8 that I like, and you mentioned this, Microsoft has started to make their own hardware now. Windows 8 itself is made for a tablet and touch operating system. And it's just so amazing seeing somebody with these 30-inch screens with their hands going back and forth. It's like watching, Minority Report or one of these sci-fi shows, except it's real. And, not only does it do all this, new cool stuff with the moving video and transparent charts like I was talking about, you can also just Alt-Tab over, which you do by swiping the left of the screen, and all of a sudden you're in traditional Windows apps. And Microsoft Office comes pre-installed and up and running on these little Surface tablets, which go for about the same price as the iPad. So I've had one myself. I've been using it since the day it came out, not to mention in preview form for a year and a half on other tablets, and it's really nice. I mean, it certainly is a different experience from the iPad, but it's just as nice in a different way. Plus, like I said, you can have the backwards compatibility with your Windows library.
So what about the desktop environment? Advisors are looking to 2013. They're thinking about replacing some of their aging hardware, and they basically have two choices for desktop. They have a Windows box and they have a Mac box, right? And walk me through some of the process and the thought process advisors should have with a lot of the legacy applications. Maybe the custodian requires a certain version of Internet Explorer to engage in their website. Maybe they've got some paperless and document management software that might not yet be Windows 8 compatible, or at least natively developed for Windows 8. So walk me through some of those considerations advisors need to make to think about the legacy software toolkit they have, but also look ahead to the opportunities they can capitalize on if they do move forward with Windows 8.
Okay, that's a very good question. And the first thing to understand is that there's a lot of, when you hear about Windows 8 in the media, you hear about these tablets and the touch operating system, things like that. But it's important to understand that Windows 8 is just the next version of Windows. Yes, it has all this cool stuff, but the upgrade to Windows 8 is similar to going from Vista to Windows 7 or XP to Vista. So you have a very high likelihood of everything that works now continuing to work on Windows 8. In fact, I want to say that I have read or heard it said that the change from 7 to 8 in terms of application compatibility is the most minor change that they've had for pretty much any version of Windows that's been out there. So speaking specifically to like prior versions of Internet Explorer, certainly those still work, and you can run old websites if you need to. And then the other thing is, if you're going to go out and buy a new machine, it's very difficult not to buy a machine with Windows 8 on it. And one clear recommendation I want to give you is to anybody who's buying one now, get one with a touchscreen. Right now, a touchscreen costs about $100 more than a regular screen, and I think that price discrepancy is even going down. I think in about 2 years, it's going to be very difficult to find a machine, a Microsoft machine that is not touch enabled.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's going to apply to Mac in a couple of years. But I think Mac is going to be playing it slow relative to how quickly Microsoft is aggressively pursuing the touch reactivity on its screens. I agree, in 2 or 3 years you may not be able to go into a store and purchase a device that does not have a touch-enabled screen.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because not too many people are thinking about or used to thinking about Apple maybe being in the second-tier position right now, but with this last refresh, if you walk into a Microsoft store, which are very nice if you've never been in one, everything in there is touch. And I would be a little surprised if there's not some think tank over at Apple who's a little bit worried about how they're going to get touch onto just the regular Mac OS. Are they going to do it like Microsoft did, where iOS is just kind of an add-in? They're probably going through right now. I'd be very surprised if they're not rewriting key parts of the UI for the Mac OS to make it more susceptible to touch, just like Microsoft did with Windows 8.
Yeah, that's right. We've got about 5 or 6 minutes left in today's broadcast about Windows 8. So I understand you're running on Windows 8 machine. So show me and walk me through with a quick screen share what some of those key features are, the cool things that you like, but also that speak to advisor efficiency. How can advisors get more work done with Windows 8? How can they work a little bit more effectively with some of the key features that are now available in Windows 8? Can you share some of those with us?
Yeah, I can do that. I hit screen share, and I think that you should be looking at my screen, which is basically you right now. So let me
Yes.
tab over. Um, what can I show you? Well, this is actually our app, the FinFolio app, apparently with an expired license. And as you can see, I wanted to start here. This is Windows 8, and if you don't look closely, you won't be able to tell the difference between this and Windows 7. In fact,
Yeah,
the only visible sign right now is that there is not a start button down here.
right.
Now, what you can do is hit the start key on your keyboard, or you can swipe from the right. Now, keep in mind, I'm on one of these big 27-inch touch monitors. You swipe from the right, and there's a start button there. You hit the start button, and boom! All of a sudden, you're in really the Windows 8 shell, but it is the replacement for the start button. So instead of hitting the start button and going through a couple levels of menus to find Microsoft Word, you hit the start menu, and you see a lot more information with, as an example, Microsoft Word right in front of you. And by the way, that circle that you can see, that's actually my finger touching the screen. I'm being very careful not to touch anything.
Gotcha.
And you can very easily swipe left and right. I'm not sure on this presentation you'll actually be able to see the swipe. You'll probably just see the screens change, but that's because I swiped to the right.
Yep.
So when I swipe back to the left, now I'm looking at Microsoft Word, and I touch it, and now I'm running Word. And incidentally, this is the new Office 2013, which is a whole other conversation, but it's very, very nice.
I got
So again, let me swipe from the right, go back to the Start menu. Now I'm back at the Start menu, and just to show you something, I'm not sure how well this will look over this slow connection, but if I swipe from the left, this is the same thing as hitting Alt-Tab. If you look closely, you'll probably see the Microsoft Word, and if I let my finger go, it switches over. Then I swipe again.
Yep.
Well, now we're in, actually, didn't mean to show this. This is FinFolio's Windows 8 app that we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very nice.
Yeah, I mean, no question that the visual, just the visual aspect of it is very compelling. Visually, it's very attractive. And I have no doubt that with FinFolio and other developers, whether they be in document management or asset account aggregation, getting on board with this, you kind of have to rethink the user interface, but when you adopt some of these ways to present the information, I think it's very engaging. I think advisors can generate some great compelling reports with it, and if advisors use this, maybe using a Surface or maybe using a kiosk like you said, they can use that in a conference room setting or a meeting room setting and really deliver a pretty compelling presentation to their client.
I think so too, and we're just at the beginning of this as far as seeing what the Windows 8 apps look like and who's working on them. And part of that is that there aren't too many apps yet. It's in the tens of thousands, but compared to Apple, who I believe is in the millions, and even Android is up there, that doesn't sound like a lot. But keep in mind, people write apps when the platform is there. When there are enough users on a certain platform to warrant writing an app, they're going to do it. And whatever you may think of Windows 8, and if you hear some of the Microsoft bashing that's gone on over the last few years, you might think that they have a pretty bleak future, but realize that they sold 40 million Windows 8 licenses in their first month, which is up from 30 million with Windows 7.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to sell 20 million a month going forward. So, this critical tipping point where people, everybody out there will be writing apps is coming. I don't know if it's 100 million or if it's 200 million, but that's just a matter of waiting, 6 months or maybe 18 months. This is coming. Yeah. If you were watching while I was talking, I know we only have limited time here, but one of the big features that I'm excited about, and one of the main reasons you might want to upgrade, is the Windows Store. It's very similar to the App Store, Apple's App Store and the various Android app stores. This one's owned by Microsoft, and all the new Windows 8 apps are going through this. They've done it, in a very different way. You slide left and right. You can see games. There's social networks. Here's the Skype app, which is extremely nice. Microsoft bought Skype recently, so you would think it would be nice. Now, circling back, and feel free to jump in, Bill, but you would ask, why would you want to upgrade to Windows 8? How does this improve the process for existing Windows 7 users or earlier? The Windows Store is really nice. No more, putting disks in and running in separate installs. Everything's going to start going through the store. That's not necessarily the case yet. It will be soon.
Mm-hmm.
Windows 8 is 33% faster than Windows 7, which in turn was, I don't know the percentage, but it's significantly faster than Vista, which is a pretty low bar, granted, but it's a
Right.
pretty big improvement. It's very noticeable. I've noticed it on my home machine. There's the tablet support, again, with at least the RT tablet having Microsoft Office built in. And one really important thing is you touched on this with old versions of Windows Explorer that some people need to log into certain sites. It plays well in corporate environments. Nobody debates that Microsoft pretty much owns the corporate world right now, and no, I don't think that there's anything on the horizon that's going to change that. And Windows 8 is, within Active Directory. It's within all the Microsoft security networks and frameworks that make it so that the IT people just let people with Windows 8 machines on the network and not they don't think twice.
All right. Yeah. So we're almost out of time today. Why don't you disable your screen share so we can see you once again? But just to wrap up, looking into 2013, it sounds like you're pretty much on board with endorsing advisors pursuing Windows 8 in some new hardware that they might purchase. I'm on the fence about Surface. I probably won't recommend Surface RT, but I think Surface Pro is going to be a more appropriate piece of hardware and software, arguably, for the advisor's business setting, their conference setting, and their meeting setting. I just think they're more capable to do more with the Pro unit, although we'll see some resistance, I think, at the $900 plus or minus price point in the marketplace. But can you give advisors some advice as they look forward to moving away from Windows 7 and what their options are?
Sure. I think that Windows 8 as an upgrade is a pretty obvious choice. So one thing I should mention is right now, until the end of the year, I believe, it's $40, which is the cheapest price you've ever been able to upgrade from one Windows to the other. And obviously Microsoft's doing it to drive adoption. It seems to be working. But if you're thinking about upgrading, and even if you're not ready to do it, go buy it right now. You'll save some money.
All right, good.
And on the Surfaces, tablets is one of the big reasons that Microsoft did this. And the Surface RT is available right now, where it's 10 hours of battery life. It's backwards compatible. I'm sorry, it's not backwards compatible with old Windows apps. That's the only big limitation. And then sometime in January, we're going to have the Surface Pro, which has a little less battery life, actually a lot less. It's more like 5 hours, maybe 6. But that is actually backwards compatible and plays well on networks and things like that. So, like I said, I think it's a pretty obvious choice, and Microsoft's future is pretty bright.
All right, well, let's leave it there. We'll see after the end of 2013. We'll have to reconnect back in December and see where Mac and Apple is on touch devices as well as desktop and laptops. And I think you're kind of right. With 300 million or 400 million installations of Windows boxes in tons of enterprise environments, they certainly have a great share there, and it's a big uphill battle for Apple. But there, can't blame them for trying.
Yeah.
All right, Matt.
Thanks
So
a lot.
I'm gonna switch. Sure, I'm going to switch over here for our upcoming schedule. Actually, this is the last broadcast that we're doing to round out 2012. I'll be on break December 21st and Friday, December 28th, and kicking off 2013 on Friday, January 4th, where my guest will be Neil Ryan of Bullseye Financial Communications. We're going to talk about new communication strategies to just really effectively connect with clients and prospects throughout 2013. So once again, Matt, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your opinion and advice about Windows 8.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.